Hello, American Crochet Association. Selena Baca here, founder, host, lead educator with the ACA. And it's Tuesday. That means we've got a new tip that we're going to share with you guys today. If you're watching live, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. And as long as I'm here live, I will give you guys an extra special shout out if I see you in the comments. Now today is a topic that is long overdue. It's something that I don't think we've ever talked about here specifically at the American Crochet Association. I don't know why we've never shared this topic before because it really is a good one. The topic today is a crochet starter kit for absolute beginners. Now, I know so many of you who might be here at the American Crochet Association, maybe you guys are not absolute beginners. Maybe you've been crocheting for a really long time, you've got a great stockpile, you already have the hooks that you like, you've got the yarn that you like, you've got the tools that you like, maybe you already have that. So if you do, if you are a crochet professional, you crochet all day, every day, and you know what you like, I would love to hear what your favorite yarns are, what your favorite hooks are, and what your favorite tools are. Or maybe you like to teach, maybe there's someone that you know who would like to learn to crochet. This could be a great topic for them. So if you want to tag them in the comments or share this video with them when it's done, I'd really appreciate it. Now, whenever you're starting crochet, it can be really, really overwhelming knowing what to get. What should I get? How much stuff should I get? Where should I get it from? So what I've done is I've taken just some of my favorite information, some tools that I use, some yarns that I recommend, some tools that I recommend that are great for absolute beginners. Now, when I say absolute beginner, I mean the person who is super excited to start crochet, they want to crochet, and maybe they haven't even picked up a hook yet. Maybe they haven't even worked their very first stitches yet. So again, and this happens to most of us, you know, whenever we're a beginner in something, whenever we want to learn something new, whenever we're trying something new, you know, we can get so excited about all of the things that we see. Side note, for example, I remember the very first time I was invited to a card making party, and I'd never made cards before. I didn't really know anything about paper craft outside of what I learned in elementary school, right? Construction paper. And I went to a card making party and I thought, this is so fun. I'm going to buy all the things. And I spent so much money and I bought so many things. And most of those things that I thought were so cool and so interesting and so amazing, I never used. What happened? I started making cards more and more, but I realized, oh, I really like this paper. I like these tools. I like those things. So when I was a newbie, and I was excited about the craft, I bought way too many things. So I bought before I learned. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's why this topic today is so important, is that I would love for people who are interested in crochet to have a successful start. So maybe you use the exact tools and the exact brands that I tell you to, or maybe you just kind of take the information that I'm sharing today. Goose agrees. And you get things, you get brands that you enjoy or accessible to you or economical to you, whatever you like. What my point to this is that this is not a paid sponsorship. I really just tried to go an easy route with something that I thought was economical and easy to source. So before I get into the crochet starter kit for absolute beginners, let me give a shout out to everybody who is here live saying hey and hello, because there are so many names here so far. Nora's here. DePolly is here. Hello, hello. So good to see you, DePolly. Nora, hello, hello. DePolly is working on... She's working on what I'm wearing. I can't wait to see it. Lori Younger is here. Hello, Lori. So good to see you over here at the American Crochet Association. Hi. Frances is here from New Jersey. Loretta's here. Hello. She is checking in from Brooklyn, New York. Elaine is here, and she this is the first response that I see. I love it. She says her favorite yarn is I love this yarn at Hobby Lobby. I'm so glad that you mentioned that yarn because it is a weight that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So excellent choice. I absolutely love that you mentioned that. Megan, happy Tuesday. Frances shared the video. Thank you so much, Frances. I really appreciate it. Lisa W is here. Megan Lloyd, she says, favorites. That's like choosing my favorite kid. I know. Maybe you have a yarn that you like to use more often than other yarns. Maybe there's a yarn that you always replace. Maybe there's a yarn you just really enjoy using, or maybe you don't have a favorite. Maybe you really do dabble in different weights, different types, different colors, different textures. There is no right answer. There really isn't. Margaret, she says, by far best tools are steel large eye tapestry needles and quilting pony needles for securing ends. Ooh, thank you for that tip. Donna, good afternoon. So good to see you. Loretta says her favorite weight yarn is number 5. Bulky, huh? Good stuff. Francis says hi to Goose. He's downstairs. He's monitoring the neighborhood, I'm sure. Making sure leaves aren't, blowing too rapidly. Children aren't playing too heartily. All that kind of stuff. He alerts me to that. Angel is here. Let's see who else is here. Megan Lloyd, she says, I think I may be weird when it comes to hooks because I don't have a preference as long as it gets the job done. There is nothing wrong with that. There isn't a right, or there is a right answer with that, but it may not be what you think. So I'm going to get to my tips on that in just a minute, Megan. Thank you. Jeanette is here. Good afternoon from Alabama, she says. Let's see who else is here. Lori Younger, she says, I love this cotton, is my favorite cotton so far. She says, for acrylic, my favorite is jeans from Lion Brand. Thank you for sharing that. I love to hear what your favorites are. Angel loves Susan Bates hooks. DePolly loves Weight 4 yarns. Let's see. Megan says, favorite yarn that I have a love-hate relationship with is Bernat Blanket. She says, beyond that, I'm loving experimenting with all the different weights. That's an interesting answer too. I'm glad that you really experiment with different weights. All right, everybody. I think I've said hello to everybody here live. Love it. Thank you guys so much. Again, this is for everyone, every crocheter. So even if you're experienced, I don't want you to see the title and go, meh, it's not for me, and click out. Let's have a conversation about this because I really hope that it helps the new generation of crocheters who are coming in. And crocheters, you guys sometimes help recruit those new crocheters. So hopefully this will be good information that you can pass along to your new crochet friends, right? Okay, so here it is. And again, this video is meant to be a conversation, but if you guys would also like a transcript of everything that I'm talking about today, just click on the link in the video description and you will get it, okay? I've also put together links for all of the brands and the tools that I'm talking about. Those are affiliate links, so you're welcome to purchase those. If you do, we do get a small kickback, or you're welcome to just take that information and find things that make sense to you, whatever that means, okay? All right, guys, so crochet starter kit for absolute beginners. So when you're an absolute beginner, again, it means you've not crocheted yet, but you are so ready. You don't want to be like me with the paper craft and buy all the things. You just don't want to do that. Do you want to do that? Yes, you want to do that because you're excited. I love that we have the kind of craft where we have beautiful tools, we have beautiful yarns, we have beautiful materials, we have tons of patterns. There are lots of things that are very exciting that draw people into crochet, but until you learn, you really don't need a lot of things. So the very first thing I say is a good investment whenever you're learning to crochet are crochet hooks, all right? Now, do you need the most expensive crochet hook? Do you need 27 different hooks? No, you absolutely don't. Is there one right kind of hook for everyone? There really isn't. As a matter of fact, until you crochet for a little while, you're really not going to know a few things. You're not going to know what is comfortable to you. You're not going to know what is comfortable to you in terms of holding your hook. Are you going to hold it like this? Are you going to hold it like this? Are you going to hold it like this? There's no wrong answer. It's whatever is comfortable to you. However you hold your hook, you're going to find that certain styles and certain brands and certain grips and certain tips are going to feel more comfortable to you. So whenever you're beginning, it's best to get something that's pretty economical because you may not like them at all, but it's going to give you enough information to determine, ooh, I need bigger grips. I need longer crochet hooks. I need pointier tips. I want a deeper groove. After you use crochet hooks, that's when you're going to decide what you do like and what you don't like. So I've got additional information about materials that crochet hooks are made with, the handle styles, the grip style, the hook in general, the groove, all of that kind of stuff. I've got all of that. Again, just click on the link in the video description. You'll get all of that. I do have a suggestion though, okay? So again, you don't want to buy all the hooks, but you don't know what you're going to crochet in the beginning, okay? Whomever is teaching you, maybe you're teaching yourself, maybe you have an instructor, maybe you're learning from a book or a resource. So if you're not sure what you're making first, you may need to have a variety of hooks, right? But you don't want to spend a lot, and you really want to find something that's pretty comfortable whenever you start with. So I did find a pretty good set of 9 crochet hooks from Knit Picks, and they're $10. It's $9.99. So they're $1 a hook. That is a fantastic deal. Now it's a fantastic deal not only for the price, but these are all metal hooks, and I think those are great to start with. You may find that you like another brand better, but I think metal is perfect for beginners because you don't know if you're going to have a really tight grip, and most crocheters do have a really tight grip whenever they start. It takes them a while to ease their tension. So that metal is not going to be pliable. They're not going to break. They're really going to hold up. Also, metal is really slick, and so whenever you're crocheting with yarn, it's less likely to snag. So I like it for those different reasons. Also, these particular hooks that I'm referencing in the link, they have really nice grips on them. This is not the particular crochet hook, but it does have a really nice big grip, kind of like this one. So it's a little bit more to hold on to, and that's fantastic for beginners because remember I said most beginners have a really tight grip. So the more you can hold on to, the more grip you have here in the handle, the more you're going to ease your tension, the more you're going to ease your grip, and you're going to have probably a more comfortable experience. So that is the very first thing that I think beginners should think about and invest in, but invest in a set knowing that they may not be your favorite. You may find that another style, another brand, or other hook characteristics may fit your hand better, and it may fit your holding style better. So it's a lot of information there. There is no one right answer, and it's all about what you're comfortable with. All right, who else is here, and what are you guys saying? Donna says, my favorite hook is the Susan Bates aluminum hook. Mine too. Mine too. Those are my favorite hooks. And you know what? I crocheted with boy style hooks, inline style hooks, almost my entire life. And then after, because sometimes when you crochet, like me, you start out with just 3 or 4 crochet hooks, and that's it. You're like, well, I have 3 or 4. I don't need any more. That's fine. And I thought that was just the end all be all. This was the tool that I needed. And it wasn't until I started crocheting with longer handles, thicker handles like this, and the Susan Bates style that I went, ooh, that's okay. That feels different. So that's what you're looking for as a crocheter. All right, who else is here? DePolly, she's going to check the hooks. Do share the link, please. Yes, it's in the video description. You should just click on that after the live, and I hope you dig. Let's see who else is here. Janetta, she says, I love boy hooks and loops and thread hooks as well. Fantastic. Let's see. All right. Gail says, I prefer tapered hooks over inline hooks. Boy, are my favorite. Yes, there is a clear difference. There's a clear difference in the way the crochet hooks look. I do have a graphic. Again, just click on the link in the video description. You're going to get all that information. You may not notice a difference at all, but if you find that you're struggling with the hook that you have, it may not be you. And that's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. If we're struggling as crocheters, it might be the tool that you're using. So sometimes if you're really struggling, or if it's really uncomfortable, if it's an uncomfortable experience for you, sometimes just changing the material you use or the hook you use can make all the difference. All right, guys, so that's thing number 1. Those are my thoughts on it. I'm going to move right along because the next thing you're going to, and I'm sure you guys are all guessing it, the next thing you need in your crochet starter kit for absolute beginners, can you guys guess? It's yarn. Of course it's yarn. Now again, just like my paper craft beginnings, I'm cautioning you, don't go out and buy all the yarn. Don't do it. I don't care if it's on sale. I don't care if it's beautiful. I don't care if it's just, it needs to come home with you and it jumped in your cart. Don't buy all the yarn. Now, why aren't we going to buy all the yarn? Because just like crochet hooks, there are a lot of different characteristics in the yarn that we have and the yarn that we use. And I don't know what you want to crochet yet. So it's really hard for me to say, hey, if you're new to crochet, you should be buying this yarn. Now, I'm going to tell you what yarns to start with, but you may not enjoy those yarns at all. Maybe that's just how you learn. Maybe that's just your introduction. Maybe that's just something that you try, and you're trying that with some questions in your mind that will help you decide what kind of things you want to make and what kind of yarns you like trying, okay? So, yarn, it can be overwhelming. And if it's not overwhelming to you, then maybe you either totally understand yarn because maybe you come from the knitting world, or maybe you just understand yarn, or maybe you don't know enough to know that it is overwhelming. And I don't mean overwhelming in a bad way. So I'm not trying to use that in a negative sense. But again, you don't want to go spend $100 getting a stockpile of yarn. You get it all in and go, oh, it was all pretty and it was great. It was on clearance and I love it. And then you go, I don't really know what to do with this. Or when you start crocheting a little bit more, you go, oh, you know what? I got this yarn, but really it's not anything that I can really use based on the things that I want to make. So in the beginning, when you're learning, I think it's great to start with a worsted weight 4 yarn. That's acrylic. Okay. Now I say that for quite a few reasons. Whenever you're beginning, hopefully when you're learning to crochet, you're learning just crochet stitches and you're learning how to count your stitches. You're learning how to count rows. You're learning stitch anatomy, and you're learning how to work your own personal tension and follow patterns. And that's it. So hopefully you're not starting with some big complicated anything, right? Or even a small complicated something, right? So hopefully you are effectively learning what crochet is from the ground up, okay? So again, that's why I think a worsted weight 4 yarn that's acrylic is such a great starting point. Now, when you're looking at the spectrum of yarn weights, weight 4 is right there in the beginning, right there in the middle, not the beginning. And so maybe you only want to do thread work. Maybe you want to make big chunky things. Maybe, you know, we already had one of our viewers here say, I love weight 5. That's my favorite. That's bulky. That's bigger than 4. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a great weight to start with, because if you've never crocheted before, if you've never worked with yarn before, it's a good enough weight that you can see what you're doing. You can see your stitches, you can count your stitches, you can count your rows, and it's not so tiny or it's not so big that it's cumbersome to work with. Now, I do say acrylic because I know that some people are yarn snobs and they're like, no, you need to get something nice. You need to get something that you're going to enjoy wearing. You need to get something that's, you know, luxury. When you're beginning, I say, no, don't do that. Because again, whenever you're beginning, you're still learning just the stitches. You're still just practicing. You just need practice material. So just like when I started paper crafts, was I going to buy the gold leaf paper to go and, you know, at $25 a sheet just to go and practice with? No. I'm starting with $1 for 100 sheets construction paper, maybe, until I get the hang of what I'm doing. So that's kind of the analogy. That's what I think we should do in crochet. That's the picture I'm trying to paint here. Acrylic yarn is pretty easy to work with. Are you going to make everything with acrylic yarn? You may. That may be your jam. You know, maybe that's the yarn fiber of your choice. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Acrylic yarn is typically really versatile. You can make lots of different things with it. It's very economical, and every major yarn line that I know of, every commercial major yarn line that I know of, has some kind of worsted weight for acrylic yarn. And as a matter of fact, most stores that sell yarn even have their own line of some kind of worsted weight for acrylic yarn. Someone mentioned Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn a little while ago, and that's a great example of a store that carries yarn that has a worsted weight 4 option. Typically these yarns, because it's acrylic, it's very economical. So, you know, it is very economical. It's something that you can reasonably, you know, buy a few different colors that you like. I will say this, don't get too crazy with color. Whenever you're beginning, just get some nice light colors. Because really, again, you're focusing on learning the craft. You're focusing on learning the stitches. You're focusing on learning how to count the stitches, how to count the rows, the stitch anatomy, the row anatomy, what it looks like right side versus wrong side. That's a lot. So you don't want to be learning all of that with some beautiful yarn that has tinsel in it, or is thick, thin, or is splotched with beautiful rainbow colors. That can really hinder your learning experience. So don't do it. Stick with lighter colors. Get a gray, get a linen, get a peach, get a blue, get something nice and light, not too light, right? Not dark, not light. Get something right there in the middle that's going to give you an enjoyable experience, because maybe it's your favorite color. Maybe you get a nice lavender or something like that. It excites you, it invites you to want to try and practice, right? But then again, it's worsted weight 4 and it's acrylic. So you get a skein of that, you practice, maybe you throw all of it away when you're done. Maybe you actually make something that's cool. You're not spending a lot of money and you're learning a lot too. Okay. All right, what are you guys saying? Rama says, I'm interested in them. Can you share the link to purchase? Yes, link is in the video description. So after this chat, go click on over. You can get a full transcript of this and links. Let's see. Nova, she says, don't get black even if it's free. Some people really like black yarn. Some people like working with black yarn. To each their own. I really want to make something with black thread. Is it going to be hard to work with? Yes. Is it great for beginners? No, don't do it. So again, black is one of those really dark colors, just like, dark brown, royal blue, anything that's dark, anything that has a high saturation of color, a deep saturation of color, it's going to be hard to see. All right, DePolly says, last week I saw 100% cotton yarn in Walmart. Ooh, very nice. I'm going to be talking about other yarn fibers in just a minute. Let's see who else is here. Melissa says, I love this yarn. It's so soft and pretty. Rama says, depends on if you make it yourself or purchase for someone. The person I use, they're about $25, but they are novelty. Yeah, so whenever you learn crochet and you know a little bit more about what you want to make in crochet, that's when it's easier to understand what yarns you can get to make the things that you want. But whenever you're beginning, you may not be putting that together. So that's why it's not a good idea to just start a stockpile, right? So that's why I'm suggesting a worsted weight 4 yarn. Let's see. Rama's asking me a question about polymer hook handles. She says, how expensive are they? So it depends on where you get them from. I happen to get mine from a few different people on Etsy. You can just go to Etsy and type in polymer clay crochet hooks, and you can find lots of different vendors. And it just depends on where you get them from. I've paid as little as $8, and I've paid as much as, I think, $24 for a crochet hook. And I think that there's a lot of factors that are involved. How intricate is the pattern? Who made it? Things like that. So it just depends. All right, guys, yarn. I do have one more suggestion about yarn. I don't want you guys to just get one type of yarn, worsted weight 4 acrylic, one and done. I would like for beginners to feel like they have a little bit of variety, right? So I think another great yarn type to get when you're a beginner, it's still in the worsted weight 4 category, but I think getting a cotton yarn is a great choice. Now, whenever I teach crochet, and whenever we teach crochet here at the American Crochet Association, this is something that we teach our crochet instructors. Some of the first projects that we have our students make are things like washcloths, dishcloths, whatever you want to do with them, cup cozies, coffee cozies, whatever you want to do with them, and wine totes. And all of those projects are absolutely fantastic to work with cotton yarn, okay? So cotton yarn is one of those, it's a fiber that it's a little more sturdy. It doesn't really have any stretch, so it feels really different to work with. Alternatively, a lot of crocheters are A lot of crocheters are possibly eventually going to make something that's going to benefit from a cotton yarn, whether it be tote bags, washcloths, dishcloths, cozies. There's lots of different things that really benefit from cotton yarn. So working with that early on, whenever you're a beginner, it's a nice, it almost feels luxury when you work with it for the first time, right? Especially when you start with acrylic and then you switch to making something with cotton. It's like, ooh, this is exciting. This is different. It doesn't snag, you know? So really it feels very different. So it's a great thing to share with a crochet newbie. You know, just a different type of yarn that's going to be easy for them to work with, but feels very, very different. Again, you want to stick with worsted weight 4, so definitely stick in that family. Worsted weight 4 cotton yarns, it's versatile in terms of function. So I think that you're really going to be happy, you know, having that experience as a beginner. So I do have some recommendations, and I found tons of free patterns. For both of the yarns that I'm suggesting, tons of free patterns. So if you just kind of, for the exact yarn that I'm suggesting. So again, link in the video description, and you can go and find those. Hopefully you can get started on those. Okay. Let's see. Loretta is replying to DePauli. DePauli, what does DePauli say? Where is that comment? Oh, there are lots and lots and lots of comments here. Melanie Thomas. She says, the devil himself made that yarn. Oh, what is this yarn that you speak of that the devil has made? Oh, I see. There are yarns you guys are saying that you don't like. Oh, I understand. And that's what you're saying, Melanie. Okay. DePauli says, I would say the ACA Yarn Mastery helped me with this. I never knew anything about yarn before. I'm so glad that you said that. And I'm so glad that you found a lot of value from that course. Thank you very much. Let's see. Francis said hot pads too with all cotton. Yeah, any kind of project like that. Anything you're going to be doing in the kitchen, lots of home decor. It's a fantastic yarn to try. Absolutely. Let me see. Oh, Donna Clark. She says, I am taking the yarn course now. Just finished the swatch course. Oh, I hope you enjoy it. Let's see. Rama says, I love the Lion brand 24/7. The texture is really good. Yeah, that's a fantastic cotton yarn. Let's see. Francis says, all cotton, though, like sugar and cream, is a bit much on me physical. It tires me. I understand. Yeah, it's not a very pliable yarn. It doesn't really have any give. Again, when you're a beginner, it's just a good experience it can be a good experience, you know, to try that yarn. That's my recommendation. Okay. So those are my recommendations on yarn. Again, for cotton as well, stick with cool colors. What do I mean by that? You don't want them to be too light. You don't want stark white because it could be really hard on the eyes. So you don't want things that are too bright or too light. You want a nice mid-range color that has a nice mid-saturation. You don't want anything too dark. And also you don't want crazy colors, okay? You may want the crazy colors, but again, when you're learning, when you're a beginner, those are things that might be more difficult for you to work with because it could be more difficult for you to see your fabric, for you to see the stitch work that you're doing. So really when you're learning, when you're a beginner, when you're more focused on counting your stitches and your rows, you want to have an easy path, the path of least the resistance. And sometimes crazy colors is going to make that experience that much harder for you. Okay, guys, I have one more thing to add to this. One more thing, and this for me it is the gospel. It is the end all be all. I don't care if you just started crocheting yesterday or if you've been crocheting for 100 years. Everyone should be using these. Everyone, especially beginners. If you're teaching people to crochet, if you know someone that's beginning crochet, make sure they're using stitch markers. Make sure, be a friend. That's what crochet friends do. They tell people to use stitch markers. Now, why do I say this? Well, I've already said this a million times, but whenever you're beginning crochet, you're learning stitches. You're learning how to count them, how to recognize them. You're learning what they look like, you know, individually and in rows. Now, one problem that happens with almost every single beginner and most crocheters who don't use stitch markers is they go, I don't know how to keep my ends straight. Or I have too many stitches. I don't have enough stitches. And that's a recurring problem for crocheters. So if we can nip this in the very beginning, if we can just tell crocheters in the beginning, if you're an absolute beginner, this is a crochet tool you have to use. It's going to make your job so much easier. When that pattern says chain 3 does not count as a stitch, put the stitch marker on the loop on your hook, and that way when you're working back over that row or you're connecting in a round, you know exactly where to join. If your pattern says chain 3 does count as a stitch, you're going to mark that third chain, and that's exactly where you're going to join in the round, or it's going to be where you stop at the end of a row. So these are absolutely crucial, and these are absolutely things that absolute beginners should add to their crochet toolkit, okay? For all of those reasons and so much more. They do so many things. But again, whenever you're a beginner, you only need essentials, and I think this is one of those essentials. So again, guys, just to recap, here is Selena Baca's outline of crochet starter kit for absolute beginners. It starts with crochet hooks. I do have a set that I think you can start with if you don't have any crochet hooks. It might not be your favorite, but it's a very economical choice to start with if you don't have any crochet hooks. And then just as you're using this set of crochet hooks that I recommend, link in the comments, link in the video description, whether you like them or you don't, hopefully you're asking better questions about what could give you a better experience, and then you can find a crochet hook that's going to accommodate that. Okay, next thing that every absolute beginner needs is yarn. Don't go out and buy all the yarn. Please don't. Get yourself through those beginner lessons first. Get yourself past that beginner phase. And until you pass that beginner phase, my recommendation is staying in the worsted weight 4 category, okay? I already did some digging and I found a really great acrylic line and a really great cotton line. These are not hard to find though. So if you guys don't like my recommendation, or if you just want to look elsewhere, you can take this information that I'm sharing and you can do whatever works best for you. Remember though, stick with lighter colors. You don't want to get anything too crazy because it's, you know, you may get the crazier, the brighter, the louder, you know, the more variegated, all of that, you know, the self-striping, you may get that later on, but you don't need it in the beginning. Last but not least, something every single absolute crochet beginner needs in their crochet starter toolkit are stitch markers. Not only do you need them, but you need to use them. You can get some locking styles like this that I'm sharing with you right now. They're so cheap and they're pretty easy to use, but there's so many different styles. And again, it is your personal preference. You may not like these. Maybe you like bobby pins. Those are my favorite. Actually, I use bobby pins all the time. So whatever kind of mechanism you like for stitch markers, feel free to use that because it's all about your experience and it's all about your enjoyment level. All right. Angel says stitch markers are project savers. That is absolutely one fantastic reason for them. Roxanne is here. She loves stitch markers. Angel says recently started using stitch markers. It's been projects. It's been good, maybe? I don't know. Maybe you've enjoyed it? DePauli says, as long as they do the job, I guess anything is good. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just giving you guys a recommendation, a good starting place, because sometimes the reason I posted all of these links on specific projects is another problem crochet beginners have is they're like, okay, great, worsted weight 4 yarn. Where do I go? So I just wanted, I wanted you crochet beginners, to be able to just go and see and either immediately get, because you're like, okay, I'm going to start with this, or at least it gives you a good baseline so that you can shop around if you want to. So hopefully it does that. Melanie says, I'm hooked on furls, no pun intended. I do have a few furls hooks and I do really enjoy them. Let's see who else is here. Megan, she says, that was me until last year. Now I use them all the time, an absolute must. Stitch markers, yes. And again, it does not matter how long you've been crocheting. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people who are like, I've been crocheting for 40 years, but my ends are never straight. And I'm like, girl or boy, get some stitch markers. Melanie says, I use them all the time. Gail says stitch markers are absolutely great. Use them every single day. And I've been crocheting for years. You know, I really felt that my confidence and my skill elevated when I started using stitch markers more. Anytime I feel overconfident, like I don't need to use them, I make a mistake. So even though I've literally been crocheting more than 30 years, almost my entire life, even now I'm like, I don't have one, or I don't, every single time I don't use a stitch marker, I make a mistake. Every time. Use stitch markers. Donna Clark, she says, don't laugh, but I use small safety pins as stitch markers. I am not laughing because my favorite stitch markers are bobby pins. Yes, the kind you put in your hair. So I buy like 250 for $3, and I still manage to lose all of them like every 3 years. I thought I had some right here, but I think that they're all downstairs. No, I think that you should use whatever you're comfortable with. If it's a paper clip, if it's a bobby pin, if it's these little plastic doodads, whatever it is, make sure you're using them appropriately. And then just use whatever you're comfortable with. There is no wrong answer. Let's see, a few more comments. Lisa's here. I use them all the time, and I've been crocheting over 50 years. That just means you know what's up. You know what you're doing. Gail says, I have so many different kinds of yarn, from acrylic to cotton to wool, even bison. She says, one of my favorite kinds of yarn is alpaca. So soft. Yeah, there are just too many different kinds of yarn fiber, kinds of yarn plies, kinds of yarn color, kinds of yarn texture. There's just too many. It can be really overwhelming. So again, whenever you're an absolute beginner, or if you know someone who is becoming an absolute beginner, if they want to dip their toes in the pool of crochet, hopefully you can pass on some of this information to help that be a really easy transition for them. You don't want crocheters to be overwhelmed. We do want our population to grow. We do want people to enjoy the crochet experience. So hopefully these tips today can help do just that. All right, everybody, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for making this a fun conversation. If you enjoyed this chat, let me know in the comments. If you guys have anything to add, if you have a favorite yarn, a favorite tool, a favorite hook, let us know in the comments. And if you guys know an absolute beginner, if you teach and you have absolute beginners, please, if you could tag them in the comments, or at the very least, just share this information. You're welcome to share this video in any place where crochet is appreciated. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being part of the American Crochet Association and for helping to make this topic a fun conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, everybody, peace, love, crochet. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.